Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Full Circle. We're here with yet another OWC recap and prediction stream. This week, it's the quarterfinals recap and the semifinals predictions. We had a wild weekend last weekend, and the bracket this week is absolutely nuts. So I think we're all pretty excited to talk about it. I'm DL. I'm here once again with T1G and iFlame. T1G, good morning. iFlame, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
And holy cow, for the first time in like months, we actually have sound on the first try. Let's
Let's
go.
go.
Let's go.
Beautiful.
We're making progress, baby.
All right, so we're going to start off with a couple of the interesting matches from quarterfinals, some of the rounds that led to some of these really weird bracket states that we have this week. We'll start off with France versus Romania. This was a match that had something like 6 break points out of 10 normal points in the match. And it ended off with France actually beating Romania in a seeding upset, ever so slight seeding upset, 6-4 in the quarterfinals.
You know, this match made no sense at all. Like, it's literally just breakpoint after breakpoint after breakpoint, and nothing about it was logical in any way, shape, or form. Um, I still like after a week, I can't decide if I think this was more France overperforming or Romania underperforming. I guess it's probably a little bit of both. Um, Romania's in the weirdest spot ever now where like their historically best player is Badu and they can't actually build a team around him because they don't have anybody else for his skill set. So it's actually just them being a mechanics team now that ends up losing on random mechanics picks anyway. I don't know. I don't understand Romania's team. I don't understand France's team. Nothing about this part of the bracket makes any sense to me.
And with all the breakpoints too, you look at the actual picks themselves, and it's not like any of those picks were egregiously bad. Most of the picks were, some of them were a little iffy, but they were reasonable. You look at the picks and you can see where they're coming from. And they just lost all their own picks regardless somehow. I do think it was a bit of an underperformance from Romania. It has really been Eternum stepping up for Romania because they haven't been able to pick towards Badu so much throughout this tournament. And Eternum just didn't have that same performance that he usually has this weekend, and uh, that let France take this one.
Yeah. Also, I want to mention real quick. Sorry, Dio. Just like the Romania roster drama was like
Mm-hmm.
hitting different. I'm curious how much like I mean obviously it had an effect on the match, but like their best players were still playing anyway, right? So
Yeah, we'll see how much it affects next year. I think because after this year, I think the people in charge of drafting the team for Romania are probably going to go a different route. Um, Also, just addressing the last pick here, we saw Badu miss in kind of flagrant fashion on the hidden three. I want to say this was. Um, he basically said later on that he was just so nervous that if he didn't
Yeah.
miss, he was gonna have a heart attack from the nerves. So, I think especially like being being with the match as it was, I don't know how much that miss actually impacted a lot of things. We saw the full combo come through for France in the end as well, and I'm not sure exactly how much would have changed even if he had full comboed on this map. So it's a pretty tough spot to be in for Badu on that map. Okay, and that's going to take us on to the next matchup, which is France versus Sweden. Sweden actually knocking out Hong Kong, a 10 seed upset, 23 versus 13, and they beat them 6-2, and then went on to also beat France in the losers bracket 6-4. So seed 23 now is in the top 12, and this is the best performance that Sweden has had in the World Cup so far.
I mean, this is part of why it's been such an exciting OC World Cup. We've had big upsets from lower seeds, and Sweden is a team that, if you've been paying attention to the stats, has looked genuinely really strong all tournament. I think both in round of 32 and round of 16, they've had some of the best team scores in the tournament. Last week, it was on the Nomads, and so it was still really impressive for them to beat both Hong Kong and France. But I think a lot of people figured this one would at least be close with how good Sweden has looked, and they're definitely underseeded in this tournament.
Yeah, and this was like a crazy match too because you had Sweden up 4-1, and then France winning 3 picks in a row on like Nomad 3 speed, which is bizarre because Sweden had won DT2 previously, and then France wins DT4 and then wins Free Mod 3 as a breakpoint as well. So they go into these tapping maps, and after opening up the match with a tapping map breakpoint, they go into tapping maps of their own picks and lose 2 of them. And it allows France to almost make this crazy comeback. And then you just have this nuts map on Free Mod 4 where it's like 100k just at the very end. It flips over because France just full wipes, and they can't really pick anything up because France is not a precision team. So Sweden's just like, hey, we're going to pick precision and win it. I feel like it's super back and forth, and those kinds of matches are always super exciting to see, but you wonder just kind of what could have been if France had opened up winning Nomad 3 instead of losing it, because this whole match just looks a little bit different with that early break point change. But credit to Sweden for closing out the match and clutching up. And yeah, I'm curious what the best performance for a 23 seed was previous to this, because I can't remember seeing a 23 seed in semifinals week before.
Yes, definitely the first time in recent memory that we've seen a team that low seeding make it into the semifinals, into the top 12. So credit where credit's due. Sweden popping off this World Cup. Let's move on to one of the other matches that we wanted to discuss, Germany versus Japan. This one's interesting, not really for the result, but because of the score line. Germany playing at 10:30 in the morning, getting a taste of the North American OSU tournament experience against Japan, and they end up going 6-4 against this team, making it a pretty close match overall.
This was just like morning underperformance from Germany, I guess. Yeah, when you look at their result in the following match that were, against the other team that they played last week, which was Indonesia, it was just completely an utter night and day, right? So I know that there's been a lot of discourse like on Twitter and social media about Europeans complaining about morning match schedules because North America, South America have it so rough, and obviously like Australia, New Zealand have it so rough. But you could definitely see the effect like of them being stuck playing at a time that they're not used to playing at. And I will say that like that is definitely true. They improved all their scores by a ton going into their second match. So I don't know how much of this match was like Japan played fine, but Germany played way below their expected level. And I think that was kind of the story of it that allowed it to stay as close as it did.
Yeah, I think obviously Kriller was the big performer. Losing the pick, I think there's the free mod 2 with a 1x100 was a little bit sad, but that's how it goes in the team matches. But without Kriller there, realistically, Germany probably just loses this one, and I feel like the 11 a.m. nerf is becoming the story of the OWC for some of
Yeah.
these European teams.
Yeah.
And it is a relatively comfortable time, but I think it can definitely hurt performance a little bit if you're not used to it. I will say though the performance is definitely concerning considering they're going up against Russia, who has been one of the stronger teams in OWC and is not going to give Germany nearly as many chances as Japan did.
Nope. And we'll talk about that a little later. But for now, to stay on the topic of morning debuffs, we have Australia versus Poland to discuss.
Ooh,
Poland
boy.
on Twitter afterwards, a little upset at the scheduling for this match, I think, having to play Australia at 11 a.m. local time. And this match ended up going to tiebreaker. It was an upset victory for Australia over Poland 6-5 in the tiebreaker, with Emrek reverse choking. I think it was one miss or one slider break on the tiebreaker for well over 800k score on that map, which was a performance they really needed to get through the match on that map.
Yeah, this one was definitely a surprise to me. I know there's a couple people who thought Australia would make it close. I personally thought it would be much more of a blowout. Emrek had just an insane performance on the tiebreaker, especially. And Malashevsky wasn't playing up to his usual level. And that being said, Malashevsky was still, well, like, what, top 15 individual? So, whereas the usual level is, top 2, top 3 every single weekend. So, you obviously can't put it all on Malashevsky, but I think Poland is going to be coming back strong.
Yeah, I'm not super worried about Poland in losers bracket. Malashevsky, like, it's so weird that, oh my God, he didn't FC every map. He had a terrible match. And that's the standard that he's kind of set for himself. And obviously, when the tiebreaker is a difference in score of 77,000 points and he puts up a sub 500K, I mean, that kind of says it all. Like, he just wasn't quite on his A game. But man, oh man, Australia, dude. Like, I think this was like what, a super low percentage. I forget the number offhand on the pick'ems, but almost nobody believed in Australia to have a chance in this match. And it was what, 5-2. Yeah, it was literally 95 to 5%.
Yeah.
Australia was up 5-2 at one point in this match, because they're just a really good team. All these new players showing up when it most matters. And then finally, Poland kind of came alive a little bit the second half of the match, and showed us that, yeah, they actually did deserve to be there, and it wasn't just going to be a one-way road. But Australia, the MREC factor on the tiebreaker, he's the one player in the world who has Malashevsky's number, and he outperformed him on the TB by, 280,000 points. I mean, that's a ridiculous number. That was a ridiculous score. And I mean, Australia just making fools of all the non-believers, I suppose, because their entire team did exactly what they needed to, and they got a huge win because of it.
Yeah, it was I think one of the interesting things to look at in this match is the overperformance from Rafał. He played really, really well. He actually ended up top scoring the tiebreaker for Poland. The other thing that's really interesting to me is that you look at Nomad, Hidden, and Hard Rock pools, not a single point for Australia. Their only points this entire match came from double time, free mod, and the tiebreaker, and that's it. So this is a team that I think has really, really defined strengths up against some of the other top teams. If you look at Australia's actual scores just in a vacuum, not against Poland, they're all pretty good scores. Number 7 on the Nomad 1, number 4 on the Nomad 4, number 3 on Hard Rock 1, number 4 on Hard Rock 3. But then the difference between being able to beat Poland and not is the difference between getting, for example, number 3 on Hard Rock 1 and number 2 or number 1 on the Hard Rock 1 pick. So I think it's kind of an interesting match to look at for Australia and say, okay, where do we need to improve in the coming weeks to stay in winners bracket, especially against some of the other teams who have been really, really popping off in a pretty wide variety of mod pools and places throughout the tournament. And similarly for Poland, I think it's a good lesson that you need to come into probably every match really, really prepared, right? This is a team that was the number 1 team on the double time mod during the qualifiers, and they ended up losing all 3 DT picks in this match to Australia.
Yeah, I think Australia's speed this year goes absolutely crazy. Like, they are so good at DT. They're so good at speed and tapping mechanics in general. And it got them through this match, and it may well be able to get them through Canada as well. We'll get to that in a minute, obviously, but that's been such a huge factor, is just their ability to go out and win these tapping maps and still have players to come in and be backup for some of the gimmickier maps. I know they didn't win them in this particular matchup, but they were still putting up reasonable scores, like you said. Those are scores that would beat a lot of teams. It just happens that Poland is really, really good also. But hey, man, you get to the top 4 in winner's side, or you get to top 8 in winner's side. Like, everybody's going to be pretty good at that point. So you got to have your A game, like you said. And I'm excited for what this match means for Australia.
Yeah, same here. We're going to move on to the next one just to kind of keep things rolling. And that next match is one of the other winners bracket matches that was a historic upset in the United States versus Canada. Canada won this match 6-1. This is a match in the quarterfinals winners bracket that the United States has lost now. This is the first time that they do not make winners semifinals since 2013. From 2014 onwards, the winners bracket has been dominated by the United States.
I think I can sum up this match pretty nicely.
Okay. What's he got? What is he cooking?
What is he cooking?
Cut paper.
Oh, I see. I see.
I'll let you go first, UNG.
I have many feelings about this match as somebody who has obviously been a USA supporter and defender for years and years and years on end. Look, let's just be frank here. This is the single worst match I have ever seen the United States play. And I've been watching OWC since 2015. I have never seen the United States look so completely unable to come up with anything that would win them a map, that they've been so moreover, I've never seen them come so far below expectations, right? In their losses in the past, right? You have the 2018 first set of the grand finals where they still look good. They get to tiebreaker against UK, and then they end up winning on the bracket reset. Last year, they go to tiebreaker against South Korea. Like, they still look pretty good. This map, they lost 6-1. They looked incapable of doing anything in a way that I've just never seen happen to the United States in my entire history watching OWC. The players that they needed to do well are not doing well. Their picks and bans were, I think, just bad. Like, you pick Nomad 2 against Cut Paper, and you clearly don't have a team that's ready for it. You have this, like, 6-man speed roster, and you pick one tapping map, and it's DT2, which you're probably just gonna int because you have speed players who are gonna randomly miss on stuff. You have a team that bans the Precision, Nomad, and Hard Rock 1, and then you, like, just don't pick Hard Rock 2 when it's there for you. You ban Nomad 1 against a team that has, like, one goated aim player, and then you just kind of don't play well on any of the picks in the match anyway? I don't know, the aura of the United States is just gone after this match for me. I have no faith in them. Like, yes, it was they put up decent scores, but it doesn't matter what your scores look like in context of the entire tournament. You have to put up the scores in the match that matters, and they didn't do that for the first time I think I've ever seen them. There's just not players on this team that it feels like we can trust anymore outside of maybe Rectagon, and I feel like as well they don't have the leadership that they used to have that would keep them like on the right path. Like, they had good captains for a really long time, right? They've had like Apraxia, they've had Joel, like they've had people who knew how to keep the team like mentally there. And I don't know that that's the case anymore. And it just is this huge combination of all of these factors that makes the US just not what they used to be. And it's really concerning. And like, yeah, they're still good, but they're just not who they used to be. It feels like this year, all these roster changes and whatever's going on behind the scenes that we don't know about just doesn't feel like the United States that we're used to seeing. And all that being said, shout outs to Cut Paper, because goddamn, that was like one of the best performances I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is that their first two picks for the United States in Nomad 2 and Double Time 2 were maps that just weren't right for the roster. I feel like Nomad 2, they literally bottom scored for the weekend. Like, it's a kind of indefensible first pick. If you're gonna bottom score your first pick for the weekend, it's just a failure to read how good your team is at a map, right? Or how good you are in comparison to the other team as well. The Double Time 2 was better. They were 10th out of 24, but that is still kind of a middle of the road score for a team that we expect to be near the top. And Canada was able to get number 5 on the map out of 24, so definitely not the kind of pick that you want to see as a second pick from the United States. And Canada, of course, winning their first two picks, going up 4-0 in this match, as we see in the clip. It's a very rough spot to be in. From there, like, the USA did actually have relatively good scores on all the other maps in the pool. They were top 4 on every map that was played, all 5 other maps, aside from the DT2 and the Nomad 2. The problem was that Canada top scored 3 of those maps, and the only map that the USA was able to get a point on in the Free Mod 1, they literally had to be number 1 on the map to do it. So it becomes way more difficult to then win, right? Canada, I think, to their credit, picking very well during the match, picking maps where they knew they had some kind of an advantage, and being able to edge out breakpoints on stuff like the Hard Rock 3 later on in the match, right? 30k is the score difference, and they were number 2 and number 3 on the map, respectively, for Canada and the USA. But at the end of the day, winning the map is all that counts, and so Canada getting that breakpoint is huge in the context of the match. I think this is the pick that actually won them the match overall, and you can see that kind of thing in other places as well, right? Hidden 3, they were number 1 and number 2, but even if you're number 2 on the map for the United States, Canada is the hidden team. They're just going to win those kinds of picks. Same exact score line on the hidden one, right? It was Canada the number 1 score on the map overall, United States the number 2 score on the map overall. So this is a United States team that's playing well overall, I think, but the direction that they took some of these picks just did not work in this match.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys have mostly covered the picks. To rub salt on the wound a little bit for the US, they also had that missed ban where they tried to ban out both of the hiddens. pretty much giving an obvious pick to Canada in the hidden one that was kind of just unlosable for them. And you talked about how important it is to have a good captain. I was watching the Canadian perspective after the match, and Xylus was, actively picking around Cup Paper. Cup Paper was just popping off a historic OWC performance. And so you hear Canada actively deciding, all right, Cup Paper is just insane right now. Let's pick a map that Cup Paper is in for and let him do his thing. And that's what they did, and it worked out well for them. And that was just, yeah, a historic OWC performance for Team Canada. And I think they've got a good chance going into next weekend.
Yeah, Canada just they felt like more prepared in basically every way. Picks, bans, performance, like I don't know. It just felt like they were super ready for that one. But we do need to defend the United States a little bit. And unfortunately, we don't have resident United States defender Miles here. But we are lucky enough to have an audio clip of a little United States defense that Miles was able to give us. So hopefully we can hear what he has to say on the matter here regarding this United States team. Maybe.
This is full circle. We could never have working audio, let's be honest.
Okay, so let me tell you why the United States
All right,
gets
Miles,
a pass
his ass did not
despite
show
the
up.
ever-loving
His ass did not show
near
up.
goose egg
This
that they
is
dropped
This is
Just-
so
up against
sad.
Canada
Is it
this weekend.
Jover?
So
it's just time to move
first
on.
off, you have to give up the factor
That's
of the
unlucky.
4-digit player Cup
Okay,
Paper
well,
just
too
going
bad.
completely
Well,
off, completely unexpected.
Maybe
Nobody
when we get
saw
to the
that one
prediction
coming.
segment, I guess.
Just
Well,
play
we'll be able to-
BTMC
he was the
joining the
difference maker.
USA
Like
voice
USA
chat
lost
during
so
match.
many
That'll
close
be
picks,
good.
like they were just shit missing at the
Oh, we
end
can
because
hear
of
it.
nerves, you know.
Oh, we
And
can
that's
hear
what happens when you have so many newcomers on the team. The newcomers this year just breaking sometimes, like it's completely expected. Like this is their first big matchup. It's expected for them to get a little bit nervous. It happens to everyone. I can tell you that for sure. And I think going forward, like this is the biggest chance they have to lose. I think if they could get past semis, like the finals pool is so difficult. Like they're going to be skill capping teams. So even if they looked like trash against Canada, like come on, guys, it's the United States. Like if they can get past Poland this week, I think they're primed for top 3 once again, and always a chance of winning.
Okay, well now that the stream delay is gone and we can and the audio is over, now I think we're good. Miles is finally done. Yeah, if they can get past Poland is going to be an interesting one. We're going to talk about that potential matchup later on. But yeah, we'll see how well the USA does this week. I think it's going to be a rally week for them. They're going to have a I think they're going to be doing a lot better with the pick strategy this week after taking a pretty hard lesson from Canada last week. Let's move on now into the predictions. We have a couple of people to join us here, as always, for some of the predictions. And I'm waiting on operator to. Okay, all right.
Yeah, we're waiting a second to get them in. So
Yeah, any
we're
closing
chilling.
thoughts for some of the other matchups this weekend, guys?
Like this past weekend.
Yeah, quarterfinals.
Let's see,
Chile with the
quarterfinals.
Volvo weekend. Good
Well,
for them,
yeah, I would
but
say
they have
I
two
was,
fairly
Chile,
easy
true.
matchups.
yeah, Chile looked nuts. They played against not super strong teams. They still look nuts. South Korea still looks like the best team in the tournament, I would say.
Yeah.
Although I guess you can make the argument for Canada too.
They did look pretty good.
Yeah, Canada looked really good. Who else? Philippines over Russia. Like I think just kind of went as anticipated. Philippines just
Yeah.
has like this ridiculous 3-core with Hyuk, Enri, and Nathan Ram that's been playing insane. What else happened this week? China looked pretty reasonable, beating Norway and then beating Ukraine. I was pleasantly impressed by China's performance. They did exactly what they needed to do to win those couple of matches to move onward to this week. That was a good couple of wins for them.
Yeah. Shout out to Ukraine, making it into top 16 this tournament, by the way. Pretty solid stuff. Unfortunately, China, I think, is just like the end of the road for them. And I think
Yeah.
Ukraine had a relatively good bracket to get to this stage with Indonesia first round and then the other couple of teams that they had faced up to that point, including Thailand, who was seed 32 in top 24. So shout outs there also.
Yo, what happened to Indonesia, by the way, from one match to the next? Like, they looked so good against Italy. I mean, it didn't matter what Italy did. Indonesia's put up just insane scores regardless.
Well,
And
I mean,
then-
Indonesia faced Germany, right?
Yeah,
So-
but they had scores that would have beaten multiple of Germany's scores, and then they just didn't. And Germany played better, but Indonesia also played like a lot worse, I felt, in their second match, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, it looks like we are ready to go. So we're gonna end there for Indonesia. Unfortunately, shout outs to them. They were unfortunately eliminated in top 16. Did not make the top 12 as they were projected to from qualifiers. And now we can move on to some predictions, and that is going to bring us in to the semifinals alongside Vorty and Shiv to start us off for Russia and Germany. Good morning, gentlemen.
Working.
Good morning.
Thanks,
Good
Andy.
morning. Yeah, it's a nice crisp 2 a.m. here in Perth.
Let's
Glad to be
go.
here.
All right, so yeah, we're gonna start off with Russia, Germany. This is seed 4 versus seed 6 in losers bracket in top 12. So loser of this match is going to be very understandably upset with their overall tournament result, given that top 6 for Germany is predicted from qualifiers, which is 2 losers bracket stages ahead of where they are right now, and top 4 is predicted for Russia, which is 3 losers bracket stages ahead of where they are right now. So I'm very interested to see what we all think of this. Why don't we start with Vorty? Start with one of the new guys. Also, welcome Vorty, first full circle episode.
Yeah, first time being here. I'm glad to be on. I've been watching these for quite a bit now, I think starting last year, so it's always nice to finally make an appearance. But yeah, Russia, Germany, this matchup, I'm pretty excited for. I think I'll be able to commentate this one, which is really, really nice. One of the matchups I'm looking forward to this weekend. I think you mentioned Germany's underperformance, and when you look at a lot of the head-to-heads between these two teams, Germany actually comes out on top on quite a few of them. And I think part of that is because I honestly think Russia didn't play as well as they could have against Philippines. Obviously, Philippines are an insane team. Probably would have won even playing against Russia, playing at their potential. But notably things like Double Time 2, Russia getting just over 3 mil. We know how good the tapping team on Russia is. And I honestly think they have a better tapping team than Germany, despite Germany being a pretty good tapping roster. I think that their 3 and 4 mans are going to scale better into this harder pool. So despite Germany being a really good team and having, Kriller is insane. Kriller is maybe the best player in this entire match. I do rate the Russian roster just a little bit more. And I think because of that, I'm going to put them to take this match. Probably something like 6-3, 6-4.
Kevin,
Yeah,
you want
I
to
think
come in for this one?
sure. I was muted. I was so confused. Oh my god. Okay, no worries. But what you said a lot.
By the way, real quick before you start going, and maybe we'll start with somebody else. Please mute yourself in Video Ninja because we hear your double audio. So let's go to
Oh.
iFlame while Kevin fixes his Video Ninja.
Yeah, I do think this is going to be a close one, and I think it's going to depend on Germany's form in that match. We saw some wild variation in their scores. You look at the Nomad 3 last week, they had 3.5 million on one run for the best score of the weekend, and 2 million on the other run for 15th of the weekend. So some variation there. I do think Germany has the skill cap, though, with players like Whitecat and Okinamo, that if they are performing up to the expected level, I think they should be the slightly better team. Obviously, you have Shikoni and Kriller, who are going to be the kind of two stars for their teams. But I think Kriller is the best player in the lobby, and so I think Germany is going to take this one 6-4.
Kev, are you good to go?
Yeah, I think I am.
There we go.
So,
That's
Yeah, works
better.
now.
Some people have said pretty much all I have to say. The one thing I will bring up is that I actually think Russia underperformed last week. Honestly, I feel like if Squirrel and Walter had a better day, the match would have been probably in their favor actually. So I really feel like, these pools have been rewarding some of the players on Russia really well. Specifically, Malcolm has been having a field day on these picks, doing extremely well last week as well. And I think that they don't have any regret taking players like Malcolm and Deske and Gamer as well, obviously. So I really feel like, for me personally, I want to say Russia is going to win this. I feel like Germany is going to be the overall objective answer, but my heart believes that with a good performance on the Russian side, I feel like they can take it.
All right, Aaron, are we getting the Russia semifinals curse yet again, or are
Yeah.
they breaking through?
No, it's Russia semifinals curse. I'm so sorry.
Oh my God, here we are, man.
Yeah, I'm picking Germany. I think this pool favors Germany in this matchup a little more than last week's pool would have, because you go into like tapping, hidden 3, tapping, hard rock 3, obviously Nomad 5, and then multiple DTs. Like, I think Germany, based, like, if you look at the scores last week, right? Germany wins on Nomad 3, Germany wins on DT2, Germany wins on DT3, or no, Germany was the only team that played DT3. Germany wins on DT4, excuse me. They were relatively close, but I think I actually think Germany scales really well for tapping. They put people on the team specifically because they have like tapping late round scaling. Russia will probably pick into like Gimmick and Hidden and maybe free mod, because they looked pretty good on the free mods last week. And those could be picks, like the last week they won the compared free mod 3 and free mod 4. Those could be picks that are good for Russia, but I think this particular pool ever so slightly favors Germany. I think it's going to be a super close matchup, especially if Russia plays up to their potential. But I think Germany gets like a break point on something, and it's like a 6-4 or thereabouts. I think this is one of the closer, one of many close matchups this week.
Yeah, I agree. This is a super close match. When I was doing my pick'ems earlier this week, I looked at the compared scores from quarterfinals, and I was like, "Am I actually voting Germany for this?" Because I thought Russia was just going to be stronger on paper. And I kind of agree with Shiv. I think Russia underperformed a little bit last week. Like, you don't expect this team with players like Ciccone, Welter, Scroll, and Din to drop the 3-way 600K on DT2, for example. Like, I think they're just better than that. And I think that they have the potential to do a lot better in the semifinals. At that, a lot of their gimmick players, I think, are just as strong as, if not stronger than, Germany's. You see them winning out on picks like the Free Mod 4 last weekend. You see them having some slightly better scores on things like the Nomad 2, for example, number 3 overall score on the map. And there's a lot of precedence for that, looking at some of the picks from earlier rounds and from the qualifiers as well, which qualifiers and quarterfinals are kind of the two pools that I think are most important in looking at results for the semifinals, right? Round of 16, round of 32 are a little bit early stage at this point, but when you look at the qualifiers and quarterfinals, there are a lot of places for Russia to pick into. And I think that on speed maps in particular, yeah, Germany definitely has an on-paper advantage, but Russia can maybe send a breakpoint on speed. So I have Russia 6-5 in the pick'ems going to tiebreaker. Like, I think this match is pretty much as close as it gets, and I don't think it's easy to predict a winner at all in this match, but it should be a good one for sure. And that is going to let us move on to our next matchup, which is the UK versus Chile in the losers bracket. This is seed number 8 versus seed number 10 out of qualifiers. Chile having lost to Australia in the round of 16 and went 12-0 in the losers bracket last weekend. Let's start with Aaron.
All right. I don't know if this is a controversial opinion or not, but I'm picking Chile here. If you look at their scores from last week, Chile stomps the UK out on like all but one of the maps in common. I mean, it's like 500K. It's like okay, DT4 is a weird one. They won one of them by 1.5 million or 2 million, excuse me. And the other one by like 500K. They win a free mod in comparison by like 600K. This, on paper, based on last week's results, this isn't even close. Chile just looked better. I mean, they went 12-0 on the week. I'm riding that momentum. UK went up against South Korea. They were always going to lose that match. Sorry, UK. I just don't think you had much of a chance now, and it was 6-1. But man, Chile looked so good. Like, Matthew and Intercamming scale really well. Their fill players for a lot of gimmicks skill sets are looking really good. Their team performance overall looked pretty reasonable on a lot of these picks. And I do think this is going to be close because I don't think you can ever say that a team that has a Colibet Bubble Man on like a semifinals pool is going to be bad. But I don't think the UK is quite what they need to be in order to win this particular matchup. I think it's another close one. I think it's like 6-3, maybe 6-4, but I think Chile wins.
Yeah, I don't think that's super controversial based on the scores from last weekend. Of the teams left in the tournament, the UK had some of the lowest scores last weekend. They had a few good scores, the Nomad 3 and the Nomad 4, I believe, but looked a little rough on the Hard Rocks especially, some of the DTs. And so Chile, of course, one of their big strengths is the DTs. The UK has been one of the better hidden teams in the tournament, but even then you have Intercamming, Mathy, and number 37, who make for a really strong HD roster. And so I think Chile is going to keep their momentum going, and I'm going to give it to them 6-3.
Yeah, I think I'd probably agree. I think originally I was really iffy on this matchup. I was like, oh, this is like one of the hardest decisions I had to make for my pick'ems. But then I really thought about it, and I am just going to give it to Chile. Now, one thing I will say for advantage for the United Kingdom, and part of why it was harder for me to make this choice, I may or may not have some insider information from a particular UK player that they were not in the best condition to play that match. Maybe some people doing some late night drinking the day before, not in the best shape for Osu. So because of that, I do think UK will play this week better, assuming they're bringing their A game, they're a little bit more practiced, they're a little bit more ready to play this match. But at the same time, Chile winning 12-0 in losers bracket, like I don't care who your opponent is, not dropping a single point in 12 maps is impressive. I think the duo of Intercamping Mathy is pretty insane. I think that duo beats out Bubbleman and Colibet in my opinion. And I do think if UK bring a better performance than they did last weekend, I think this will be a lot closer. But I still want to give it to Chile, and I think both teams will also have some 3-4-man issues on some of the harder maps because it is semifinal stage. But I still give it to the Intercamping Mathy Dream duo. They played very, very well in their overall performances. So yeah, Chile for this one.
All right. I'm gonna bite the bullet. I'm actually gonna have UK beating Chile this week. Honestly, mainly my reasoning behind this is because I feel like if now is the time for the players actually try really hard for UK, I think it's this week. I feel like, to be honest, last match was actually underperformance by a lot of their players, and I feel like if people like Bubbleman, Colibet, and Easy Champ really lock in this week, as well as Malteser, I feel like they can win overall against Chile because honestly, the second half of this Chile roster is going to be really hitting this skill cap soon, and it really is just going to be Intercamming and Mafia on general picks, NO37 and Gonza and TFG on these filler picks where they're only really comfortable on this skill set. But I feel like United Kingdom has the overall more stronger players still. But honestly, yeah, in terms of trajectory for the overall tournament, I feel like Chile is a very understandable and reasonable answer. But I'm gonna go with UK for this one.
Dio Chile will not repeat itself. I'm gonna put the UK winning for this one. Honestly, like looking at the scores from last weekend, yeah, it definitely looks like Chile is just gonna like stomp their way through this match. But the UK did have some pretty good scores. I don't think a lot of people expect UK to be better than Chile on speed, but they actually had the number 4 score for the weekend on the Nomad 3 in the speed Nomad pick. Granted, that was very close. Chile got number 5 and number 6 on the map for the weekend, so it's not like that is a huge advantage. And of course, Chile with very, very good scores on the remaining double times. But you look at some of the stuff from the qualifiers, and again, quarterfinals and qualifiers are kind of the two most important pools to look at when you're kind of trying to compare for semifinals. UK had better scores on both the Hard Rocks. They had better scores on both of the Hiddens than Chile, which I think is really impressive given how much we've been talking up throughout the tournament. A lot of the hidden performances for players like Suntan, like number 37 on the side of Chile. And then you also have relatively good scores on some of the nomads from the UK as well. So I think you open up those extended mod pools, you open up the free mod pool a little bit to the UK, and I think they'll be able to take a lot of those points in those types of maps. And even then, right, if you see them winning the Nomad 3 last week head-to-head versus Chile, there is a chance for a break point. So I think overall, on paper, I do think Chile is the stronger team, but I think this matchup is good enough for the UK that they can pull out the win here. And that's going to take us into our potential matchup discussion. We're going to compare consensus Russia-Germany winner versus consensus UK-Chile winner, which in this case is going to be Russia versus Chile for a potential matchup, and see how the discussion goes here. Let's go ahead and start with Kevin this time around. Have not started with him yet.
All right. Well, I just think that, the Russian match is going to be just harder in general versus Germany. And I feel like if they can beat Germany, they can just beat Chile. So I'm just going to have them winning here. Not much else to really say. I feel like that match is going to be harder.
Any other predictors? 40?
Yeah, I think for this one, I'd probably have to agree. Regardless of who wins Chile UK, because I think it's going to be one of the closest matchups. I could definitely imagine UK winning. Even if UK does win, I still think Russia will beat the UK, regardless of who Russia's facing. So I do think that the Russian team it has more depth, it has better skill cap. I think notably when you're looking into the 3-4-man, like Ciccone, Din, Scrowell, Welter on some of these mechanics maps, same thing with Gamer. I think it's just too much skill cap, too much depth for Chile to really compete. So yeah, just gonna have to give it to Russia.
Yep. I'm gonna have to give it to Russia as well. I think I would probably take 6-2. And to be honest, I think whoever wins out of the Russia-Germany match will be favored coming into that second round of losers brackets. So I do think either of those two teams would beat Chile, and I think Russia just has had the more consistent team, and Ciccone has been playing very well.
We are gonna give Chile some serious bulletin board material this week, aren't we? Here, holy cow! Yeah, unfortunately, I'm kind of on the same page here. I think the Russia-Germany winner, whoever it is a better team than the Chile UK winner, whoever it is. Like, I don't think it matters which team comes out of the second matchup. I think the Russia-Germany team winner wins that, which here is gonna be Russia. It's like everybody's saying, like the top end players on any given map are nearly as good, if not as good, as the top end players for Chile, and the fill players are probably just straight up better than Chile's fill players. I would love to be proven wrong because Chile top 6 would be friggin' cool, but unfortunately, I think Russia or Germany, either way, that team wins.
Yeah, I think I'm also mostly in agreement. The scores for Russia against Chile look even better than the scores for Russia against Germany. And again, I am legally obligated to not predict Chile ever on stream after 2021 happened. So I'm going to have to give it to Russia here. I do think there are some chances for Chile to take points here. I think they have really good reading players, really good hidden players. So I don't think this is going to be a stomp or anything like that. As well, Chile had some really good scores on the Hard Rocks last week. Hard Rock 1, Hard Rock 3, they both had really good scores on those maps. So I don't think this is going to be a blowout at all. And I think it's going to be really tough for Russia to capitalize. They're going to have to play well 2 days in a row in order to get out of this losers bracket gauntlet. But I do think they have a slight on paper advantage, especially given that they can still put up decent enough scores to compete with some of the scores on speed from Chile. Despite how good Chile has looked on speed through the tournament, there is some pretty wide variance for Chile on speed. For example, number 1 score and number 14 score on the weekend on Double Time 4, dropping from 4.2 mil to 2.8 mil team score, or 3.9 mil on DT2 down to 3 mil flat on DT2. So there's a lot of variance in the scores that they can put up. And if you have that kind of variance against a team like Russia, they do have enough good players on those types of skill sets to take advantage of it. So yeah, I'm going to give this to Russia. I do think this is going to be a good matchup regardless. And I think this side of the losers bracket, all 3 matches are going to be really, really good. So I'm looking forward to watching that side of the losers bracket a lot. And that will take us into the other side of the losers bracket, where we have, I think, to start us out.
We've got 5050. Can we just move on?
Yeah, this is going to be, I think, a 5-way vote for 2 teams here, and then we're going to be looking at a really, really good match.
Yeah.
We'll start off with the United States versus Sweden. Aaron, do you want to get us going here?
Sweden's fairy tale run comes to an end. They just don't have the team to compete with the United States. This is, I mean, every stage, and there's like tiers, and like, so you have a tier of team that can make it through the quarterfinals week, and then they fall off. And then you have a tier of teams that can make it through semifinals, etc. And Sweden is like the tier of teams that can get through quarterfinals. They can perform well, but I think they just don't have what it'll take against the teams that you match up against in semis week. United States is gonna be taking this week, I think, pretty darn seriously after what happened in their loss to Canada. We saw it happen to the United States when they lost last year. They lost to South Korea, and they went out and just looked unbelievable in losers bracket the next week against, I want to say it was Romania and then Poland. And I think we're going to see them trying to do much the same thing here. I will mention, I just want to say this before we even talk about it. The US's schedule for this week is like some of the worst scheduling I've ever seen in an international tournament for a given country. The US is they rescheduled these matches themselves. So like, I guess it's fine, but they're playing this match at 8 a.m. for half their team, and they're playing the next match at 7 a.m. for half their team. So, I mean, they know what they're doing. But like, I just want to point out, like, these guys are going to be getting up at like 6 a.m. for these matches, bro. Like, half the team is on the West Coast.
According to Fiery Rage, Rectagon is in hell, so they had to schedule like this for the matches. So I don't know exactly where hell is, unless you're referring to Hell, Michigan.
I was going to say there's a hell in my state. It's like an hour away.
Yeah, I know about that city. My dad's from Michigan. So I actually lived in Michigan for like 5 years, very, very early on in life, like early childhood. But yeah, unless you're referring to Hell, Michigan, I'm not sure exactly where he is, but apparently that caused them to reschedule to 8 a.m. for half their team for both matches. So good
7
luck
a.m.
there,
for
but
Sunday.
Yeah,
15
7 a.m.
UTC for the Sunday matches. Anyway, yeah, USA pick anyway, regardless of all that. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I believed in Sweden last week, and they made it through. I really thought about it. I was trying to think about what's the angle for Sweden here, and I honestly just could not find it. I'm gonna have to go with USA 6-1. They're just a much stronger team, sadly for Sweden.
Yeah, I think I have to agree. I put Sweden to beat Hong Kong, and I'm glad that they did. I think this team is better than their seeding implies. But I think despite that, I cannot really think of a single skill set that Sweden beats out on the United States. I think they might be able to eke out a point. There might be a map that's good for them that they play well and beat United States. And especially with how United States played against Canada, this isn't the most consistent United States roster we've ever seen. So I think Sweden will still manage to get at least a point probably, but I think other than that, United States wins this pretty handedly.
All right. Well, during the first prediction stream, I predicted Sweden to be 12-16 actually, and I think everyone else predicted it to be like 17-24. And they lost the first match in round 32, and by a pretty decent amount. And I remember like I messaged Skella and I was like, "You guys need to win," and he's like, "We're going 0-2." So them already being here is more an accomplishment for them. I think they're already really happy of how far they made it. I think, like, shout out to one specific player. Like, obviously, you have your really strong players in Recat and Skella, and like close tournament players like Phelan and Andres. But I really think the dark horse of this tournament is Spinks. I think this guy's been playing crazy good for having zero people like looking into him at the start of the tournament, and I think he's actually a main reason why they won the last two matches. But yeah, it's looking to the USA, but I'm proud of Sweden. Like, they did really well.
Yeah, I'm also going USA. I got nothing to add. Like, it's America time, baby. On to the next matchup. We got Poland versus China. I do think this matchup's a little harder for Poland, but I still think we're probably going to be consensus Poland on this one. Kevin, do you want to start us off real quick?
Yeah. Well, not to take too long, but I think this China roster, if this is an earlier pool, definitely has, like, if this is an earlier pool against another top seed, I think they can win. But like Poland, like in early stage, they're literally 4-way FC to every map, and I feel like last week if Ristel played better or Malashevsky, I feel like they would have won as well. So I really think it's just gonna be Poland. I think China can get a couple points off of Christo and like Kermi and Milk Tea's consistency with David, but besides that, I don't really see how this match changes in any way.
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree. I do think this is going to be a closer match. I could imagine China getting in 2, maybe even 3 points. But Malashevsky no longer has the versing Emrek debuff. I think he's going to be back to form for this match. The skill cap of Poland is just too good. Malashevsky Nahus is just, it's not something China really can compete with. And I do agree, if this was like a really early stage pool, China definitely has an opportunity because they do have the depth on their roster. But I just don't think they can compete on this pool. I think Poland's going to win this, but it'll probably be a bit closer than United States, Sweden.
I fine.
Yep. I don't really have anything to add. It's going to be pretty decisive for Poland, I think. I will take them 6-1. China did have some good scores on things like the Hard Rock 2 Free Mod 2 that they were #1 team score on, but Poland is just better.
Yeah. Crystal Karumi, David Milk Tea is like good, but Poland is better. I want to see what Crystal's capable of. I think every week I'm like excited to watch this guy play because you just don't get to see him that much, and the guy's nuts. But unfortunately, Poland is just the better team, top to bottom. There's not really any skill set that I think China wins in this matchup.
Yeah, I mostly agree. I mean, you have Ristel on Poland, right? And then you have C Ristel on China. So, like, would you rather have normal Ristel or like the C version? I think I'd rather have the normal Ristel. And just generally across the roster, I think China is a lot weaker than Poland. Poland is and has been one of the best teams in the tournament since the very start. And they are, I think, going to come out strong in the first round of losers bracket this week. So yeah, that's a 5-0 panel prediction for Poland. Time for China to take it and force the bout against the United States or Sweden. Actually, it's going to be China versus Sweden.
China, Sweden.
Yep.
Dude,
and
it's like
now
we have. Can we get USA Poland at home? And then Mom says we have USA Poland at home, and USA Poland at home is actually China versus Sweden.
I mean, if they both win, I think it'd be a hell of a matchup. That's for sure. So yeah, we're gonna talk about United States versus Poland here. That is gonna be the projected potential matchup, I think, for 99% of viewers. I'm gonna start off with some of the Americans here. I guess the one other American on the desk
here.
T1G. Hey man. Also, I have to leave for a moment, so I will be back.
Okay. I'm just gonna say it. I don't trust the United States anymore.
Oh man.
It's been 7 years, 8 years, and they've never lost my trust. And they have now officially lost my trust after that Canada match. I went through it in detail in the previous segment talking about United States, Canada. The aura of the United States is just gone completely. They don't the debuff. I don't think teams are going to be debuffed by playing against the United States anymore. After what Canada did to them last week, they were frankly exposed in a way that they have not been since, I don't even know when, maybe 2013. And there's nobody on this team that I feel like I can trust outside of Rectagon. Everybody else is so liable to underperform and not live up to expectations. I will say there is one thing that I believe. I do think that they will be better prepared for this match. I do think they will come ready to play. And I also don't think it'll matter. And I think this is going to be the first time we've seen United States fail to podium since 2014, because I think Poland wins this match in a tiebreaker. Like, we to go back to it's 2017 again. The last team to eliminate the United States from the World Cup was Poland, and it's going to happen again for the first time in several years.
Man, where is your faith, T1G? As a Canadian who would love nothing more than to see the United States lose, I think they're going to take this one. I do think, of course, it's going to be close. But let's look at the stats for a second. Yes, USA lost 6-1, but when you actually look at their team scores, they had a great weekend. Number 1 on the Free Mod 1, number 4 on the Free Mod 4, where Canada was first. On the Hidden 3, USA had the second best team score, losing only to Canada. Hidden 1, USA had the second best team score, losing only to Canada. The Hard Rock 3, they were number 3 team score in the tournament. Canada, again, in second. I mean, Poland in first, to be fair. But the USA was on quite a few maps behind only Canada. Canada just had an insane performance last weekend. And so I think the downfall of the US is greatly exaggerated. And they're going to take this one 6, we'll say tiebreaker, 6-5, because I want to see a tiebreaker.
Yeah, I do think this match will be close, but I'm kind of with Tig. If this was a winners semifinals matchup and the United States had been doing United States things and playing really, really well, I'd probably give this to United States, because in my head it's like Takedo, Rectagon, Vaxei. I mean, that 3-man should be so strong. It should scale really, really well. better than, 'cause I don't think really Poland has a third player necessarily, but I mean, Rafał played so well. You have Malashevsky. I was memeing a little bit the Malashevsky Emmerich debuff, but I don't think that's actually untrue. I do think Malashevsky will play this weekend a lot better. I think he had an underperformance up against Australia. Nahus is still a really, really strong player. I think Poland is just going to be more prepared. I think after the shakeup United States had, I don't know if their mental will be at its best place. I still think this will be a really, really close match. I'm really going to be excited to see it, but I kind of just trust Poland a little bit more to perform a little bit better than they did last weekend and outperform United States.
Okay. Well, I already know. If I don't put the United States here, I'm gonna get and they win. I'm gonna get like a Twitter screenshot. It's like, oh my god, they like underpredicted us again. Wow. So I'm actually like pretty confident this week that I'm gonna say United States. Mainly, my logic for this week is like they gotta lock in. Like I've been talking to some of the players and like they've been put on the training arc this week, and I really feel like the roster overall has more depth than Poland. I think Poland really depends on these star players to show up. I think it's really dependent on Vistel. I think it's really dependent on Wypan or Rafał as well as Nahus. And I feel like for USA, it's like even if I don't see like Vaxei showing up, I think if somebody like Kama or Woodshi or like Bashi really steps up to the plate, I think they can take it. I think it's gonna be extremely close. I think both teams can go either way, but I think this is the storyline I'm willing to go with for now.
All right. You already know what time it is. It's the weekend of United States, baby. It's
Oh,
time
man.
for them to show back up. We got United States ready to go in the semifinals. I think this team is coming off of a really bad weekend, and I think they're gonna lock the fuck in for semifinals. Like Shiv said, it was a bad weekend for the United States. I think this is a team that is trying to figure out exactly what their identity is with a completely new roster. There's 5 different players from last year on this roster. You're going to make mistakes when it comes down to it, but this is the greatest team in the history of the World Cup. It's so hard to bet against this roster, and especially with Taquito, Rectagon, Vaxei as the core. I'm willing to bet United States for this matchup. I think, like iFlame said, you look at the scores for United States last weekend and compare them to Poland's scores. United States had a lot of maps they were incredibly good on or very close to a Poland on, with number 1 scores for both the teams, but with Poland dropping a lot more kind of low scores, especially throughout the free mod pool. I think United States is going to have a really good time in this matchup. I do think it's going to be close. On the pick'ems, I got it in tiebreaker for the United States, but I still got the United States. I lived in that country for 25 years. I got to vote USA.
I think a thing to mention, regardless of who wins, a monstrous team, a top 3 seeded team is leaving in semifinals losers bracket. So I
It's
think regardless
massive.
of the outcome, it's going to be absolutely absurd.
Yeah, it's this is one of the crazier. I mean, the winners bracket is like 1 top 8 seed or whatever, or 2 top 8 seeds, or top 6. I mean,
winners
it's
bracket
like,
is
it's like 1, 4, 11, and
7.
7. Yeah, so it's 2
you're
top
1,
6
5,
seeds.
11, and 7.
1, 5,
Yeah.
11, and 7. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's-
3 of the 4 top 4 teams are in losers bracket right now. Russia, Poland, and United States are all in losers bracket this week. And one of United States and Poland is exiting top 8 in a tournament where they both seeded top 3. One of Germany and Russia is exiting the tournament top 12 in a round where they seeded top 6 for both of those teams. And either UK or Chile is exiting top 12. For Chile, that's the expected finish. For UK, it would be 1 round underperformance. It's a spicy losers bracket. And that is going to bring us to the winners bracket matches. We're going to start off with the first of 2 extremely good winners bracket matches here, with South Korea versus the Philippines. I'm going to keep on the Kokona outfit until we get to until we get to the end here. Back to Florida. Back to Florida. Yeah, South Korea versus the Philippines. Philippines upsetting Russia last weekend, but I think it was the expected result for a lot of people. And of course, South Korea, the number one team in the tournament out of qualifiers, has continued to show dominance in the winners bracket, has lost 2 points in total throughout the bracket, whereas every other top 4 seed is now in losers bracket. So definitely looking the most dominant out of all of the expected top teams in the tournament so far.
I mean, yeah. I think this is gonna be South Korea's first real test of their roster. I think it's gonna be their first matchup, which is really gonna shake them up potentially if Philippines keeps doing Philippines things and South Korea doesn't play to their potential. But I mean, this South Korean roster, I think if there's any roster in the entire tournament I trust the most to play at the level that we know they can play, it's the South Korean roster. I think the Karcher worst HR player dynamic of worst HR player on Hidden, Karcher on Hard Rock is the most monstrous thing in the free mod pool. Like free mod is just a field day for these guys, so like Flying Tuna on no mod and then anybody else who feels good on no mod. I think the backing roster is still not going to be outscaled. I think this team like practices really, really well. I think they have amazing mental. So I think despite the fact that Philippines will be able to play at a very high level, Enri is, maybe overall when you think about every skill set, including tapping, maybe the most well-rounded, best overall player of this matchup. I don't know if the rest of the team, notably when you get to 3-4 man, Hyok is still going to be insane, Nathan Ram is still going to be insane, but I just don't know if Philippines is going to be able to bring that full 4-man roster that can really compete with South Korea on most of these maps. So I'm just going to put the expected answer. I'm going to give it to seed 1 South Korea, but I do think this is going to be a good match. I do think Philippines has the potential, if they play to their highest ability, and if South Korea underperforms, this could be an upset, but I don't really see that happening.
All right, I'll go next. Yeah, I'm gonna also go South Korea for this one. I think Philippines has had a fantastic run. They have guaranteed themselves top 6 with a semifinals winners bracket bout. But I don't think they win versus the number 1 projected seed in the tournament. You look at a lot of the scores from the previous weekend. You have some good, very good Philippines scores. Number 1 on Nomad 2, number 1 on Nomad 4. And the South Korean team has had a little bit less of a dominant showing looking at just pure number 1s. But looking at some of the head-to-heads for these two teams, I think it's really clear that where South Korea is good, they're fantastic. And where Philippines is good, they can still be very good, but I think it's on fewer maps. Philippines is a team that's really good at reading and very good at tech, things like that. But South Korea, I think, just has a wider skill set. You have South Korea beating Philippines on speed, which I think is really impressive given the level of caliber of speed players on the side of Philippines with players like Enri, Nathan Ram, Milktism, right? You have South Korea winning on Hard Rock 1 by a whopping 700k, and that's about the same as the reading pick, like the perfect stack reading pick that Philippines has against them. Philippines is number 4 versus number 5 on DT4, and that's by less than 30,000 score. Whereas then South Korea is again like number 2 versus number 11 by almost by over a million score, on the free mod 4. I just think South Korea has such a wide breadth in this matchup as to what they want or need to pick in order to advance. And I think that's what makes a first seed in a tournament like this, is that they can pick basically anything and have it work out pretty well because they're just that damn good. It gives you so many options and it allows you to just pick into what the other team is weak at versus needing to pick into your own strengths.
Well, Dio's got this covered, man. I tell you what. He just comes in and says everything I was gonna say.
You ain't know about that redneck knowledge, huh?
I guess. Like I've been super, super impressed by the primary like 3 core of Philippines, right? With Enri, Hyok, and Nathan Ram. They've been playing some outstanding Osu over the past few weeks to reach this stage and have looked very good in doing it. But yeah, South Korea has equal skill cap and is deeper. They have more depth in their roster and they have more breadth in their roster. Like Dio was saying, their skill set coverage is, I would say, probably second to none in this tournament. Like their ability to play any map is absolutely ridiculous. Any skill set that you throw at them, they're going to do well on. And I'm worried that Philippines also might get a little fourth playered on this pool as we get into later and later stages. Whoever their fourth is for things may just not scale as well. We know they're not going to scale as well as Enri Hyok and Nathan Ram, but whether or not they scale as well as South Korea's fourth member, I think is also they won't do that. And so yeah, South Korea I think just continues their journey here through the bracket, and they win this one. I would say maybe like a 6-2, 6-3. I think that South Korea is just really dominant this year.
I do think this one is going to be close. Enri, the OG Hyok, and Nathan Ram have been on form the last couple weeks, consistent, top 15 individual finishes. Philippines have had some really impressive scores. They had, I think, 3 number ones last weekend, and so they can definitely put up some points here. I'm going to take South Korea, though, of course. They're just so consistent. I think for me, they have been the favorites from the start of the tournament, and I'm not going to bet against them now. And I would say it's going to be 6-4.
Right. Yeah, people have already pretty much covered everything I would have to say. Honestly, if this Philippines had what I would suggest is their full power roster, where they had Ramu and Kagano, and it was on an easier pool, I really feel like it would be extremely close. But Philippines has this really bad fourth man syndrome, and it just gets worse and worse as the pool starts spiking higher and higher as the scaling gets more and more severe. So I feel like it's just gonna have to be South Korea. As much as I've been supporting Philippines this entire year, this is where it's gonna get a little like they're gonna need a miracle pretty much. Like it's not even like they have to play well. Like South Korea needs to play bad. That's like the contingency for them to win.
Oh,
And South Korea has not played badly at all
Yeah,
in any match.
relying on a team to play bad is
Oh,
like
I was muted.
the
Oh, yeah,
last
you do,
thing
you're
can
muted.
do.
Yeah, notably, South Korea has not been playing badly. They've dropped 2 points throughout the entire tournament. They were 6-1 and 5-1 in the 2 previous matches. So, bit of a rough ask for Philippines on that one. That's a 5-0 panel prediction for South Korea. Get the Twitter screenshots, etc., etc. Make sure you include Redneck Dio in that. And on to our last matchup to discuss, which is Australia-Canada in the winners bracket. Gentlemen, we got as much time as we want to discuss this one, so I want to hear the hot takes. We have Australian Vorty, fake Australian T1G, 2.5 Canadians on the panel today. Let's just go down the line, starting with T1G, because we have fake Australian, Canadian, and then fake Canadian to bookend it. So let's go with that.
It's Australia. What do you fucking think, mate? Like, there's no chance. It's just Australia. They have the best tapping roster in the tournament so far. They've looked insane on everything tapping, everything DT. This pool is like tapping and DT pilled. Oh, and if in case you forgot, they have like the reading GOAT in JGLF on their team. They have fill players to cover anything in a way that they never have in the past. And they're on just like this crazy hot streak with that tiebreaker win over Poland last week. You've got Emrek scaling into like the highest skill cap player in the game. So as the pools are getting harder and harder, he's just going to get better and better and more important to their team. And I mean, you've got the consistent veterans. You've got Doomy Secret Box playing really well. You've got Sayo JGLF playing really well. AK and ZX playing really well. I mean, like, what more could you ask for? This is the perfect storm for Australia. They've got it all. I don't see Canada doing what they did last week again either. Like, expecting the performance that they had last week 2 weeks in a row, I don't think we've ever seen Canada do that before. I guess you could argue that it was like that with Germany and the USA, but I don't think they looked as good against Germany as they did against the United States. I don't think they can perform as well as they did last week 2 weeks in a row. And even if they do, Australia has somebody that will match them on maps in a way that the United States did not. And I think it's another close one, and I think this is like 6-4 a tiebreaker, but I'm a believer in this Australia roster, man.
In all my time on this show, I've never heard such an absurd prediction from T1G. I don't know what's going on today. Canada just wins these, okay? They had 3 number 1 scores last week. They had a number 3 and a number 4. Cup Paper has had one of the most dominant performances we've ever seen in the World Cup. He may never miss again. Let's be honest. I am all in on Canada, okay? Canada's winning OWC this year, and it's not going to be close. They win the Hiddens by a lot. They win the free mods too. They have Zudinator who can take the hidden Hard Rock on pretty much everything. Of course, Cut Paper on the hidden and Xylus as well. And it's not going to be close. It's just going to be an easy 6-0 sweep for Canada.
All right. Before I talk about the players and the last week performances, let's look at this pool, because I think what really influenced my decision to, I mean, I was going to pick Australia no matter what. I was going to pick Australia if this was a South Korean full gimmick pool against South Korea, but this pool is very, very good for Australia. I think Tig mentioned it. This is a tapping pilled pool. So let's look at the hidden 3 and the hidden Hard Rock 3 last week, for example, right? Hidden 3 was basically an alt map with hidden. Very good for Canada. I think one of Canada's best skill sets and something they're really going to want to pick into is going to be alternating. Now, this pool does have some alternating. We'll get into that. But notably, hidden 3 going from an alt map to a 240 BPM speed map, when all of the speed players on Australia can read density, that's now one of the hidden picks that Canada could have picked. It's now gone. Hard Rock 3 was an alt tech consistency map before. It's now Blue Zenith 4 dimensions. Blues, that, like, dude, the shift of that skill set favors Australia so much, because their flow aim Hard Rock consistency lineup is just better than Canada's. I don't think Canada even has Rupertian, so they don't even have that player. Obviously, you have Zudinator, who's going to be able to compete on Blue Zenith, but that's just such an Australia pick. And now you still have hidden 1, hidden 2. That's going to be good for Canada. Australia's probably going to ban one of those out, so you're only left with one actual hidden pick for Canada. I think the entire double time pool is favored for Australia. The speed, the DT1, even the DT4. Now, I do think Canada is going to have some picks and no mods and free mods, but I think Australia just has more picks. I think they have a higher skill cap roster. You have a roster with 3 top 50 players, like 3 of them. I think Emrek, Box, and AK and ZX are all top 50. So the skill cap of this roster is probably the best in the tournament, I want to say. And that's just going to be more apparent the further we get into this, into these pools. But yeah, I want to give it to Australia. I also don't think that, despite the fact that Canada had an insane performance last weekend, I don't think they're going to replicate that. I think part of that insane performance was USA kind of picking into some Canada maps. So out of the 7 maps they played, a lot of the maps they did play were really good for Canada. So I think that sort of inflated their scores a little bit. But yeah, it's Australia, baby. It's Australia all day.
This is gonna be the most biased thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's so lame. It's so lame. We're gonna end up with Canada 3-2 because there's just 3 Canadians here.
I mean, like, we'll see if Dio switches
stupid.
up, but like, or Dennis switches up. But obviously, I'm gonna put Canada. I put Canada the entire time. I literally don't care. They could be playing against Faker in the mid lane, but we already have Faker on our team, so it's okay. We already said, like, Boy just said there's 3 top 50 players in Australia, but there's also 3 top 50 players on Canada, and they're all season tournament players. I respect that. I think Australia is probably going to be extremely strong, but as you said, like, DT pool does favor Australia, but I really feel like when you talk about, you know, slot, like non-slot pooling, like, yes, hidden 3 is speed now, but that means that the skills has shifted into a different slot. Now Nomad 2 is Tarte Tatin, and now free mod is no mechanic maps at all. So, like, now suddenly Canada, you know, not only are they extremely good on hidden, they're extremely good at free mod. You know, you have your Zudinator hidden Hard Rock, you have your Xylus hidden, you have Franklin hidden, you have Yip Nomad. Like, this roster is gonna go crazy on a lot of these picks this week, and I feel like, although I think Australia wins on the mechanic picks, I feel like Canada will have such a strong advantage over everything else, and especially, you know, this hidden 3 pick. Yes, Franklin probably can't play it that well, but I really don't think Australia actually wins hidden 3. Despite it being speed, it's density, and you have players like Vespia, you have Zudinator who can play, you know, this type of 240 BPM burst. You have Xylus. These are some of the best hidden speed players in the game. So if anything, this is completely favoring them. And then you have DT4 is Kero sacks. Like, I don't even know, like, this is not even a tapping pick at this point. And you have, you know, your old map players in Franklin and Vespia. I feel like Canada looks so good on this pool. You know, obviously since I'm a pool, like, I can't really say much else, but I just think that it's looking good to me. I think Australia will win the picks that they're supposed to win, like DT1, like probably Hard Rock 3. But I think everything else, it's a sweep.
All right, so we've had a very biased introduction from the other 4 people on the panel here, right? All completely just juicing the rosters and voting the teams they have at home, right? I'm gonna take an objective stance on this match. All right, we could look at the scores, we could compare rosters, we could look at individual performances, but I think the one thing that's gone unaddressed so far by all of the bias, all the big talk, is the fact that Australia is playing at 1 UTC, which is at the latest 11 a.m. for their roster. And
11 a.m.
as
place.
we've seen, the only continent that can actually play at 11 a.m. is North America. So I got to give it to Canada because Australia's playing 11 a.m. Aaron walks away. Oh my god. Okay. To be a little serious here. I do think the schedule is a little better for Canada. They have 1 UTC, right? It's like 8 p.m. That's pretty good. There's I think these rosters are really closely matched. I think I give like a slight edge to Canada because I think a lot of their like quote unquote fill ended up being really good this year. Yip Cut Paper in particular have been performing really, really well. And obviously Cut Paper like topping match costs last week. But he was also, if I'm remembering correctly, like number 7 in round of 16. Like the guy's actually just been performing really, really well throughout the whole tournament. Number 7 in round of 16. Compared to between players like Rectagon and Crystal, right? He was ahead of MREC in round of 16 for overall performance score. And again, ahead of MREC in quarterfinals for overall performance score, despite MREC playing 11 maps, right? Like this is a guy who's been performing really, really well. I think that the pool is like kind of balanced, honestly. Like I don't actually think it's bad for either of these teams. Yeah, it's a little bit more tapping focused with the Hidden 3 Hard Rock 3, but you remove the tapping picks from Nomad. Actually there's Skin Thief, never mind. There is still the tapping pick in Nomad.
There's literally Skin Thief, bro.
Yeah, but there's a lot of good picks in the free mod pool for Canada. There's again the DT4 is just not a tapping pick at all. The DT1 is not really a tapping pick at all. Also, it's mapped by someone from Canada, so obviously it's a Canadian pick. I think the pool is mostly balanced. I do think there's a couple extra speed picks that are good for Australia, but I don't think like the Hidden 3 Hard Rock 3 are straight up Australia picks because of players like Ryuke and Stoof existing for Canada. I think they're going to have a lot of really good players on the Hard Rock stream pick. And obviously, as Kevin already said, like the Hidden 3, I think is going to be pretty balanced as well with all the hidden players on the side of Canada too. So I think this is like a very, very close matchup. I moved to Canada, so I'm going to give it to Canada, but like, this is a really, really close matchup on paper. I think that I have this like 6-4 Canada on my pick'ems. I think this is going to be really close. I think both teams are going to have a really tough time versus each other. But I think it's going to come down to some of the rookies for Canada performing super well throughout the World Cup and giving them a little bit of a leg up on Australia on the picks in the pool that are not speed maps.
You mean like the rookies on Australia who have been playing well the entire World Cup, who have been giving
I
them
mean,
advantages on maps that aren't speed maps also?
Yeah.
Are we just ignoring that they have the exact same thing you just said is true for Australia?
Okay. Tell me when JGLF and top scores match costs. Like, I don't know, man. Like, what do you want me to say? Like, obviously the rookies on Australia are also really good, but the Canadian rookies are just popping off. Like,
and by Canadian rookies, he means Cut Paper.
I mean
because
Cut Paper.
nobody
Yeah,
else
Cut
on this
Paper.
team is a rookie.
I thought
What's up?
was either Vesprit or Yip a rookie
Vesprit.
for
Pretty
this
sure
roster?
all of them
They
have
both
played at
played
least
before.
one
They both
before.
played.
Vesper is a rookie, not Vesper
No.
is too? Okay.
Vespia played
Yip
2021. Yip has played
Okay.
all
Yip has
since
played for a while.
2021. Yeah.
Yeah.
And-
Okay.
I mean, if you're talking about fresh faces, Vespia and Stoof won on the team last year.
Yeah. Stoof being back is also big for Canada.
Oh, he was playing phenomenal. Yeah. He didn't really play that much last week, but what wasn't that good? Like, he's locked in for Blue Zenith. Like, that's all I'm going to say. He's locked in for Blue Zenith.
True.
Stoof and farm stream maps, man.
Yeah. I mean, I think this Australian roster is really good. Like, I don't think this is going to be a sweep at all. I think this is going to be very, very close. I would not be surprised to see Australia win this at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a super close banger match regardless. Same thing like Australia Poland, but yeah, I do think Australia. It's also shout out to Sayo for I think he top scored 2 of the maps that Poland picked that almost ended up being breakpoints. So in those matches, so hopefully we get to see a bit more Sayo again this weekend because I know he didn't play as much early stages, but he's an insane new pickup if you're talking about good
Yeah,
rookies this
I mean,
year.
he just won ANZT like over Doomy
Yeah.
in a bracket reset
Yeah.
grand final. Like, dude obviously has solid skill cap. It's just gonna be fun. I don't know. I think I regardless of who. Okay, my order would be like, you know, obviously Australia winning, but like I want this to be a really good match because I think we kind of unfortunately the Canada 6-1 USA took a lot of the wind out of the sails of like, oh my
Yeah.
god, this is the most hype insane matchup, because it was just really one-sided, and I'm hoping that this one is a little bit more competitive.
I think it will be close. I think really what it's going to come down to is Australia is going to have their tapping maps that they can pick into, including DT1, that I think they'll just be really favored on and will probably win. Canada's going to have some really good maps, notably things like NoMod 2 and NoMod 3 both being alt maps is pretty good for Canada and some of the free mods. It's really going to get to that later stage when you're looking for breakpoints. That's really which team can pop off and perform and get that first breakpoint is going to be the difference maker. But I don't think this is going to be really less close than like 6-3, no matter what. I can't imagine it being shorter than a 9-map match.
Can I ask, what was the prediction for USA Canada last week?
I think we were.
I mean, it was like pretty split. Yeah, it
3-2
was split.
Yeah, it's
USA?
3-2 for the US, I think.
Yeah.
And that was
I don't-
one where I think most people thought it was going to be reasonably close too, which
Yeah,
obviously.
me and Dio had the slightly biased Canada predictions.
we
but
put up for Canada.
in the pick'ems before the match, it was like 85%, I think, predicted USA.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
And that was just like
Faith
back
has
to
been
back where
rewarded.
Canada just like has never beaten this team, and oh wait, Canada just beat that team.
I mean, they've only played
Yep.
once.
Yeah. You brought up a really good point too, Andrew. It's like when you like be like this Titan, like the entire like kind of like facade. How do you say that word? Facade? I don't know. It's like you imagine USA as a Titan that you can't beat, and suddenly they just like shattered like all like that entire like like
facade?
mental edge is
The
now
facade.
gone.
Oh, facade, yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
I needed more context
Thank
to
you,
figure out
thank
what
you.
word you were trying to say.
My bad, but like it was a good point. It's like now this USA team just looks so beatable, you know. I mean, I put them to win, but they look so beatable.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Well,
Any other closing words for either this match or any of the others before we wrap up? I think I've said most of what I wanted to say. This matchup this weekend looks banger. Like the two most one-sided matchups that I have are just USA, Sweden, and
USA,
Poland,
Sweden,
China.
yeah.
But I think every other match is 6-3 or closer. Like I think this is going to be an insane weekend for the US World Cup.
If USA beats Sweden and then loses to Poland, the Twitter discourse about them playing at 7 a.m. for the Poland match is going to go
Savior
so
arc is about
crazy.
to go
And also
crazy, dude.
the should have been
Yeah.
Decaton, man. Oh my goodness. But I mean
the Caden Twitter arc is about to go crazy.
the Twitter discourse if USA
Oh
lose
my
that match is
God.
going to be absolutely insane.
Oh Lord. All right. Anybody else for anything for this weekend?
I think that's it. It's going to be a great weekend. There's going to be a lot of good matches, and just the storylines are insane. Obviously, Canada, Australia in the winners bracket, and US, Poland in the losers bracket. I don't think many people expected, so it's going to be an exciting one for sure.
And that's going to do it for Full Circle this week. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Check out the Ost World Cup this weekend. See if we have any idea what we're talking about, or we're just blowing out our asses with these predictions. Russia, Germany, first matchup of the weekend starts 13 UTC Saturday. That is 8 a.m. Eastern Time, or I believe that is 2 p.m. European Standard Time. So go ahead and check out that match. There's matches all day Saturday, and then 1 UTC Sunday for Australia versus Canada, 12 UTC Sunday for South Korea versus Philippines, and a bunch of other losers bracket matchups the rest of the day Sunday, as well as there might be a little surprise in store for the viewers on Saturday as well. So go ahead and stay tuned for OWC this weekend. Thanks everyone for watching. Thank you to Shiv, Vorty, iFlame, and T1G for being on here with us. And we'll see you all next weekend for yet another OWC discussion and prediction.
Bye.
Bye.